So there's a film that I need you to watch. I'm going through all my old DVDs. It's called The Subversion Factor by G. Edward Griffin. Now, if you heard of Yuri Bezmenov over the last year and saw the video that he did when he was a Soviet defector explaining how they were going to subvert our culture and our government, and you like that, this is more from that era, the McCarthy era. This is when there was an open fight with communism in our country. I'm going to play a little bit of it and post links to it. And QR code, if you want to... Man, that's not going to work. But anyway, I'll post a link. These are for in the real world, but this is how you can help spread stuff.
Before breaking away and testifying in 1970, he had risen to the rank of courier and carried directives from the Central Committee to the operating units within various cities. After explaining how the Weather Underground serves the purposes of the Soviet Union, with control exerted through Cuba, he then explained the importance of what are called
members of the Weather Underground are still professors.
However, I can tell you that while I was with the Weathermen, we had certain people that were recruited out of universities, that were not allowed to attend meetings, that were dealt with on an individual basis by the person that recruited them. And the idea was for this person's record to be absolutely clean so that he or she could work themselves into key positions of authority and responsibility, and therefore be able to do a lot of damage at the right time. Obviously, it would be best if they were in the government somewhere, but or in public utilities. But really, it was sort of like you go on and make your career as best you can, and when the time comes, we'll let you know. So this person could be a vice president or a president of a corporation, multinational or otherwise.
Maybe ones that control communications?
Primarily, it was to keep them out of the limelight and keep the records clean. Law enforcement was an area they'd like some of them to get into.
As a result of the testimony of scores of individuals from within the communist movement, we're able to get a clearer picture of one of the most important components of the underground structure. This is the elite corps, the moles in high places. They have special assignments that require deep cover, and they're considered too valuable to risk being exposed, even to the rank and file of dedicated communists who themselves may belong to other parts of the underground.
Certain mayors, perhaps?
Of course, is to what extent has this communist underground been successful? Lies the history of subversion by bribery, blackmail, or terrorism. But the subversion of government from within government is a gigantic subject by itself. And it is to that history that we shall turn our attention next.
Do a few more minutes.
The Communist Party in the United States was officially established in 1919, only 2 years after the Bolshevik seizure of power in Russia. During the following 2 decades, over 100,000 American citizens flocked into the party. Unemployment and economic depression had convinced them that capitalism was crumbling.
This is what we're being set up for.
And the fear of the rising specter of fascism led them to embrace what they believed was the only alternative.
This is setting up the revolutionary atmosphere. All this shit is happening again.
By 1941, when the United States and Russia became allies in World War II, many people viewed American communists as merely patriots and socialist dreamers. And it was in this atmosphere of benign acceptance that the party consolidated its penetration into government. In fact, attempts even to investigate communism were firmly opposed at the highest level.
The National Maritime
These are going out
Union
to all
was
the
then under
locals.
control of the communists, it's not now. And they were putting their operatives on ships, and they had a network of intelligence.
Robert Morris, for many years, has been a key figure in the anti-subversion program of the federal government. He was chief counsel to the Senate Internal Security Subcommittee, and during World War II was the officer in charge of the counterintelligence unit of the 3rd Naval District in Washington. After describing how President Roosevelt had ordered the Navy to allow Communist Party members to serve as radio operators with access to secret military communiques, Mr. Morris then turned to the subject of Soviet defector Viktor Kravchenko.
So we had to meet him clandestinely, and he was with the Soviet Purchasing Commission. And he had with him evidence substantial for that purpose, but instead they were building up using it to build up a large navy in the post-war period to take on the British and the Americans. And I had extensive evidence of that.
When Morris brought this information to the...
So go watch the rest of this documentary. It's called The Subversion Factor. G. Edward Griffin is a guy you need to learn about from back in the old days that's still fighting these people. Links in the description.